property and
Oh,
business.
yeah,
Those
okay.
are the moves, things
Yes.
that moved out of the commissioner's budget.
Those are the only two changes I had. No other changes.
Okay.
Line 11, 10, 45, 10. Subtract $7.
Well, that's right.
Sorry,
how many,
we're not
dude?
paying for bariatric chairs.
Am I on the right line here, Dave? This one here?
Total is 377, kill that one.
Okay, $700 gone?
Yep. If I can get a cheap cake, I can save $700.
Whose birthday did you wipe out, by the way?
It's Carol, so you can all figure out whoever Carol is.
Whoever Carol is. Happy birthday, Carol.
What did you use to wipe out the name?
Don't ask.
I'd like to know.
That's why no one's eating it. Okay.
Did one of those numbers, the icing.
4510, we took out $700.
Right, bariatric chair.
Yes.
That was a 700.
That was a $700 cut.
Let me see if that's what they did here.
Dave doesn't need one of those yet, so he's not worried about it.
Okay.
I'm going to also lower that health insurance a little bit there in the 1410, or in the, it's in the MITS section, to take out the 5% increase. Now, can Pat afford his chair if I take out? No? No? No?
Take out.
Still moving.
Yeah, I think we can go.
Which one now? We're
Drain improvement.
at drain improvement?
And we had no changes in this.
You what?
No changes.
No changes, just reconstruction and maintenance, and then, that was it for that one.
Kathy, what page are we on?
42,
Yeah.
general drain improvement.
Thank you.
So, looking at what we actually spent, 350, whatever. I guess I'll pass.
That looks like it could do it. We got 1.2 million of cash there at the end of August.
We
And-
spent, or?
No, we have cash
Yeah,
in that
cash,
fund of
1.2.
1.2 million right now, and so, if he did, we're going to get some more money probably the end of the year from property taxes, because that's, the ditch reconstructions go on tax bills, or close to what consider tax bills, so there'll be some more money put in there, and we should be okay.
So we can't take anything away from that one?
No, wouldn't really be much benefit to anyway, but
Okay. Security, protection, recorder?
And that was for
and that-
software. her fund.
she pays for her system, a chunk of it out of there. This is the old deduction fund.
All right. Deeds.
Public Road and Street, we've done, if you've
Road and street, we've already
done that one. Major Bridge, we've done.
jumped over.
Way.
Where are we? We've done Major Bridge,
Now we're at page 48,
48.
Plat Book Fund. This one, I pay for part of an employee out of there that takes deeds in. And that's about it. We get monies from deeds. There's a plat book fee on every deed.
We'll talk about rainy day.
And we have no appropriation for a rainy day, but we just list that in there. Reassessment.
Reassessment,
I left a word for Eric. He was not in his office, so. We'll revisit when Eric returns.
okay.
And we've already done.
We already used that for perpetuation.
Right.
didn't
Uh-huh.
We already did the recorder perpetuation.
Recorder perpetuation.
Chief
Already done that,
deputy
haven't we?
salary.
Well, no, we mentioned it. We moved Onita's half salary into there.
Okay. Well, sheriff, service fee, right?
I don't have any.
Saw that the county contribution, total county contribution is up to $1,075,000 for the pension. It goes up every year. I will always defer to the auditor, but I think ours is, my figure was $11,000 more of a contribution than Bob thought, but
We go through, it goes through July. We take 12 months through July, through the end of July. And so when they are submitting their budget, we don't really have that number. Now, Charlie was doing it, what maybe makes more sense, but we've just always done through July. I think we need to make this 175, 365. That's what we took in for that,
period.
yeah, that period of, what do I do with that?
Versus the 186.
Yeah, this is on here, this is the monthly receipts. So we took in the 175, which is $30,000 more than we took in last year. So then we pay this is just for sheriff retirement with the balance then paid out of the general fund. So.
I figured I averaged it out to 15,000 and change every month. But like, for example, in July, we took in 16 something, and in August, we took in 17 something. So it's how I pay it, I guess. I mean, more than anything. But we are taking in more than the average. It helps some. I know it's a lot of money, but that's what it is.
And whenever I think on my thing over here, I did show what the fees are that we get from McCready and Keene. Now we're talking about $1 million, and whenever we add sheriff deputies, that's going to go up the next year. It doesn't go up the year that you're adding them, because there's always like a 1-year delay in there. So it is up 16% from what we had last year. But it's going to happen when we add sheriff deputies. So we had some this year. The one next year will go up again. So it's part of the expense but you have to kind of think about it because there is a year delay in there. And well, that's just, they're the ones that collect this fee.
They're the ones that collect it.
It's really not the clerks.
Okay.
They collect the fee and bring it over, so it just says their line number on it, so.
Okay.
defender user fee.
Okay, public defender user fee?
No changes. Recalling yesterday, we appropriated $50,000 out of this fund. We kept the general fund line item that equates to professional services the same for 19 as we did for 18, even though it's continuing to grow. So I think that there's potential that the user fee will increase for this, but if it does, it's just going to go out the door. So bottom line is, I don't think we've got any potential to relieve general fund with this fund, is what I'm saying. So I think we can just leave it, even though I expect fees are going to be up, but then professional services will follow as they have balance. As Amy said yesterday, they always try to hit this one first before hitting general.
All right, thank you, Roland. Let's move on down to the surveyor cornerstone perpetuation.
I have that.
And this one, what Zach, John, Bob, and I talked about, decreasing part-time to 5,000. That was the only change.
And health insurance, or did I mark that on my own?
I think you marked that on your own.
Because that one,
You're going to look into that.
yeah, and I'm saying now 4,000.
Go up to 4?
Yeah, well, because they've already used 2,500, and that's what they asked for next year, so. Using 1,885 the first half of the year, 2,500 wasn't going to quite cut it.
Okay. Anything else, Kathy? Unsafe building fund structures?
The only question I had, if we go back up to the fund revenue, I had a question mark, that 120,000, I had a question mark at 110.
That's collected with deeds. I don't know, through 8 months, we have 80,000. So that would come to about 120.
Okay, okay. I just had a penciled in 110 question mark, so, okay.
Unsafe building fund?
And that one, we just appropriate basically the whole cash balance in case that Mike needs to spend it. We don't want to have to wait and go through appropriation process. So, he doesn't normally, hadn't spent any for a while, but we just want to have it prepared in case he does need to get a building taken down.
Why do we have to appropriate 50,000?
Because that's the cash, that's how much cash he's got. So if he has to take a building down that costs 50,000, he doesn't have to, the appropriation's already there for him. He's not going to use it for anything else except for,
Until we can put it back in the general fund.
no.
Okay, cool. We did discuss about, was there a possibility, Mike, of some building being taken down or somebody complaining somewhere or
I don't have anything scheduled
an arbitration?
so far, it's 2019. I think we're in pretty good shape. We just have to have it.
Okay. We got
The CASA grant.
CASA?
Okay, this is the Guardian Ad Litem grant. The items listed as 0 are the 9,000 that we moved to general in CASA. One employee and some part-time there, and that's it.
The part-timer with benefits, is that the attorney? No.
It's not, is it?
I don't know.
All right.
I don't think so. The CASA grant, that's not an attorney, that benefits eligible.
I don't think that's in the grant, is it, Bob?
I don't think so.
Guardian ad litem. It's a,
But this is an employee in the office.
Okay.
Yep, I'm good there.
Now we're getting into the big money,
Oh, yeah.
ineligible homestead.
Yeah, and this one, I pay for part of an employee. The other part that wasn't paid out of my other flat book fund, she's paid out here. She's a benefits eligible employee, so that's that split. And then my part-time, which is basically all of my part-time with the exception of John, who does the minutes, but anybody else that we've had, which has mainly been Jesse that works in the summer and whatever. And if you, this again, this is where, I mean, I put this in at $18. If you want to cut that, I can handle that and, oops, and we'll see what happens. But I think I think there's some real benefit for her to do some more education and training than what we have done in the past, whether that's just for budgets or just for using our financial system. But that was my rationale, at least for that. And then I have like overtime in there. You can cut this if you want. I probably won't use it, but just being an independent fund like that, I just want to have it in case I would need it. But that certainly could go down to 1,500 or zero if you saw fit there. There would have to be an unusual situation for me when we had like general fund employees that need to be paid overtime. I'd be paying them out of here. It's not for my benefits eligible person. So any overtime I'd be spending would be out of here. I don't envision that happening, but anyway.
Okay. Do we need to talk about elected officials training fund?
But Bob, are we maximizing the amount, we probably ask this every year, I'm sorry, the amount of employees that we could pay out of this fund? I know that's got restrictions.
No, I could pay for another employee out there. I mean, if I had to do one, I really wouldn't want a full-time employee because this money would eventually then run out. Because I'm bringing very little in this now. This was a one-time deal mainly to get the money. If we had to, I could pay John out of there. I'm not sure I'd feel comfortable beyond that, to just have all my part-time out of there, but I could do that. But, maybe, and it's not while I'm going to be auditor, but down the line, we would be out of money in this fund. And then you're going to have to go back to the general fund, but.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, elected officials training fund,
Can we
what it is.
take a brief pause, go back to the sheriff's pension?
Okay, Jeremy's wanting us to go back. What fund number is that?
1193.
1193.
Slight adjustment.
Okay, well, you say whatever you're talking about there.
Well, I just need, you got a number in your spreadsheet that looks like a typo.
Where's that?
So that needs to be 175,359.
Oh, because of that $6 again?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to lower that by $6.
Thanks for the gift.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now we're done with that. Now
It's cake right there. Without the happy birthday ice.
Talk about training fund.
Yeah, and this one, of course, this is comes from recording charge, and this can only be used for. We were hoping that we could get this changed in the General Assembly, and it didn't happen last time. We're going to try again. But right now, there is certain training that these particular people can get paid for out of there. Not all training, like for me, it's not all training I can go to, but there is a list that's approved by the Board of Accounts and the AIC approved training that if I attend that, I paid out there. So we try and maximize that as much as we can. But, when we're taking in 20,000, 22,000, whatever it's going to be, we can't spend more than half of it. We're maximize this as much as we possibly can, but there just needs to be something done statutorily to open that up to at least people within the office. I think that was the bill that was proposed for this last session, to not just the auditor or the treasurer, but their staff also. But anyway, so this is what we got.
Okey-dokey.
County 911.
very good shape in 911. We did increase, the only thing we did increase with consultation with Commissioner Brown was in equipment, $100,000. 911 allows you to pay for radios, communication. We've never been able to pay for the individual radios that everyone has because it would clearly deplete our fund.
So it wasn't
However,
just
we've
us.
decided to go ahead and
You can
Lafayette
hear it.
Police is going to expand their dispatch center, so we're going to pay for their main radios out of that fund. It's, I mean, it's the right thing to do. But with interest and everything else, we're still $57,000 ahead of the game this year. And that,
Must've been working on
the balance at, the actual
mean
balance
about
in 911 was
Yeah.
4.1 million in June. So we're in very good shape.
Any questions, Major?
I didn't have any other notes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lowett, spatial distribution. Lowett?
This is the highway one, and I think this money is all going to be gone by the end of this year. That was the special distribution from the state on the income tax excess balances, that part of what Hirschman was involved with, and I think we're going to get it all used up, I believe, is the plan by the end of this year.
Probation, user fees?
I know with Dave yesterday, we did a general fund and court services. Did we do this? I don't know that we did.
I don't think so.
The only change that Dave had mentioned, Bob, it's on the insurance line item.
Yeah.
19624, yeah, is what the deck says. He said he had a change in a couple of employees that he had 2 people reclassified. He thought that number should increase. He suggested 30, but I don't know if he had talked to you about that.
We do. I've got a little box around it, but I don't have a note because, yeah, we've used 18.3 already through the end of August, so 19.6 is not
Can we
going to be
double
enough.
check that based on, he's got the 2 employees on his salary statement, they're paid out of this
You
fund.
think 30?
He-
30 would seem reasonable.
Yeah, that's what he came up with. I mean,
Okay.
so he's got balance there and managing that like he does court services, so that would be the only change we have.
Any other observation, alternative dispute?
No changes on dispute resolution. We've got a series of Pat's special funds here. He had to go to court for a murder trial, so I don't believe we had any changes in these all the way down through infraction diversion.
Okay. Substance abuse, mental?
That's the court services that we did yesterday, along with violence and community, which no longer exists.
All right.
Yeah.
Jury pay.
Violence in the community?
Yeah, there's nothing there. That's
Yeah,
not an
part of-
active fund anymore.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to talk about it.
And so for next year, can we drop that from the budget pack now that we're all clear?
Yeah, I just left it in there because it says I'll have a cash balance.
Sure.
And, yeah, at some point, we're going to have to, we'll be moving that cash. So, yeah, I probably will drop it next year, but.
And we committed that back to rainy day.
Or probably would just go back to the substance abuse fund. I would tend to think, as I think you can move money from violence and community to substance abuse, but you can't go from substance abuse to violence and community when we were using both the funds.
But didn't we fund that from?
It was the user fees. It's court services user fees, both of them were. And then Krista is occasionally collecting some delinquencies from the other one.
Oh, so right now, we've already done all the transfers to pay back. This is just what to do with the money that's now residual money that continues to come in.
Yes.
Gotcha. So are you saying that only home for that would be the other user fee fund?
I'm not sure the only home, but it seems to me the most logical home because it was a court services user fee, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
It's-
okay. Okay, thank you.
So jury pay,
Yeah, so, we're starting to build a balance here, but I think that, or we have a balance, I should say, uncommitted at 25, but, last night I looked at, could we be moving some of the other general fund jury pay here? And we haven't really over budgeted over there. I think it's, my recommendation would be just leave it as it is. And then if we got some big jury, which we could, have an unexpected spike on a court or two, then we look to use some of this balance as well before hitting the general fund.
When we get additional appropriation requests for jury money this year or next year, we will at least advertise at both places so that if you want to just use this for additional, that's
Yeah, that
great
sounds,
too.
sounds smart.
family counseling.
No changes. This is at the judge's discretion, and it is what it is.
Skip past recycling.
Don't skip recycling. You didn't advertise on anything on this, correct, Bob?
We don't have to advertise this fund, so, but we can put something in.
Well, what I'm saying is, that pays for the west side recycling, and right now we have 41.5 sitting out beat it to make the payment for this next year. We could take that payment out of this, since the balance is paid up enough, so if it's all right, let's go ahead and budget 41.5 out of this one, and then we'll go back to our other professional services and pull 41.5 off. That's okay.
What else would you spend on?
This is tipping fees, and it's to pay for basically what it goes for. So they used to make all the payments, and now we don't make as much tipping fees because many people recycle. So as you can see, it basically takes 2.5 years for it to finally build up enough to kind of make the payment.
So, might as well.
I mean, if you're all okay, then let's go ahead and budget 41.5 out of this.
But we also didn't budget revenue.
Well, I noticed they didn't, and it looks like it brings in anywhere between, 15 to 19. You're at 8,000 right
Yeah.
now, half a year.
Yeah, okay.
So, is that all right, Bob? Is that all right?
Yeah, I can put in 16. I mean, that seems like that's conservatively accurate.
Makes sense.
Okay, parking garage maintenance.
Did we pull that out of the EDIT, Bob? Or, yeah, out of the EDIT? We were going to pull in the 41. You suggested pull.
Oh, I'll put it into EDIT. Yeah, I've got a note over here. I'll
Okay,
get that
great, thanks.
thrown in there.
Got it pulled.
Well, I'll do the EDIT part.
Parking garage maintenance.
Basically no change, and we're making some money.
Can you make more? $500 a day parking fees.
Thank you for coming back.
Nothing more on the parking garage.
No.
All right, revenue on the surveyor donation fund.
Well, let's, I added one in here just a couple days ago talking to Andy. It's not in your book at all. The Fairgrounds Donation Fund, and I don't know if he wants to come up, and we did just get a new donation, I believe, of $1,000 this week.
Hello. It's, yeah, I got to receive the donation on the, one of the barns and some of the wood in there. So I don't know that we'll use it, but we'll have it there in case we need something in the project that we could purchase.
Because now we'll have like
Okay.
$17,000 in there, so just to have it appropriated, so he wouldn't have to come back and appropriate it. And so these were the two lines that we've had in that budget before, the professional services, and then one for capital. So we just thought, and this just came up this week, well, let's just get it appropriated, and so we don't have to have that step later.
Right, we've always had the donation fund, we've just never had an appropriation.
We
So
haven't
was
used
always
it
this-
for a long time. so-
Well, yeah, I know that,
Yeah.
too.
Seems reasonable to me.
To put it into other professional services and,
Yeah.
and then that can be, if he wants to go down to a capital line, obviously I have to go back to council under consent agenda, but, oh, well, I mean, it's about 16. Okay. No, and I really do have 17,000 in there now. So I'll go 85 and 85.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Surveyor donation fund,
Nothing.
and the fund revenue, okay.
Is this one?
Law enforcement warrant fund.
It is. All the ways here pretty.
Well,
On the other one?
back to,
Which
ours
one?
is the recycling
Oh.
support.
John, Jeremy wants to go back to recycling
Really?
on page 60.
I'm not 100% sure, but that 41.5 is the countywide support of the West Side Center, right? And I think we included half of that support in the solid waste budget.
What page you on?
60.
That's that 41,500, page 60. So we'd only need half of that much.
Where is
Half
that?
of the 41,
Where is that at
so
in
20.
solid waste?
Down on the 3920 line.
It's also included in.
Check out
some of-
that note there on that cell, yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah.
2750 is all we'd need from the,
And that's,
from
so
the
that's
tipping fee
half.
fund. Yeah.
20750.
I knew that what I'm typing there does not seem like that's making sense.
Okay, Rollin,
Please.
law enforcement
I better save this page. I haven't done that for a while.
warrant fund.
Similarly here, no changes in the amount of funding coming out of there for him on, this is the El Rodeo money. So he's got a plan to not spend all that at once, and he's paying some people out of there, and so we're just going to leave that as is.
That's it, jail lease.
This is obviously to pay the lease, or the jail bonds. And they usually, as you get closer to the end, it starts going up a little bit, so it's $5,000 more than what we paid this year.
Eric, thanks for coming. We had a question in regards to the pictometry, because we were, for the flyover for the county, we had included it in your budget, but it's also in Kent's budget.
Yeah, so in 2015, pictometry, the people who do those 3D flyovers that are on Beacon and have their own website, historically that's been paid through MITS, and then Purdue University chips in for some really high-res stuff off campus. And we've always been the main benefactor of it, but have never paid for it. In 2015, they stepped back the quality to save costs. And we tried to work with reduced quality imagery, and the work product suffered. And so when it came time to renew the contract, MITS is willing to pay for what, the reduced images. We said, can we pick up the difference?
Okay.
Basically, can we go back to what it was prior, get some higher quality imagery? And then also we've had issues with Union Township as far as permit reporting. And so it also includes a change finder to do, aerial comparisons over the years for that township. But so basically our portion of it's a relatively small portion, about like $55,000 a year, just for increased quality.
Okay. Okay.
That answers the
Thank
But you're
question.
still gonna have the lion's share of it,
Right,
but
okay.
it should be lower
Mainly
than.
just there
Right.
for this.
Okay.
Okay, that was
So
just
that's
the
the
confusion.
balance there.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Do we need to do reassessment while he's here?
Is there a reassessment fund that you?
Oh, did we have anything else?
No.
Well, we didn't. I think it was just that question. if
That was it.
Double dip.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah,
only question.
that was the only question.
okay, we
Thank you.
talked about the jail lease, then we got the county self-insurance for any day. It's there. Self-insurance, it's there. How about the excise?
We did that one already.
Or did the excise surtax,
Yep,
Yeah.
the wheel tax?
yep.
Highway, yeah.
Any
I did
project
it.
fund? Is there anything?
Wait, we do the. Did Stu talk, he talked about the highway project fund?
He did not, but
Didn't talk about what?
Highway project fund.
I thought you did.
No?
Check mark.
So do we need to discuss highway fund with nobody here, or no?
Bob, I didn't have any changes on that,
didn't either.
the project fund.
Jeremy's just saying, I mean, we're a little concerned about in the revenue, the 0293, the $1 million in there, but, I mean, even with out that, and this money comes from mainly the first line, it's TIF. The 1.75 million, we did have some growth in the TIF districts for what should be billed next year. That may be a little low, but it's really hard to get a good handle on that one. But it could very easily be in the $2 million range, but just the reimbursements are a little iffy, but there's still enough cash. It's not a real problem that's gonna cause a negative cash situation, but that was what was turned in from them.
So leave it.
I guess so.
F Lake detention,
There were any changes with that?
We had,
revenue.
we didn't get a budget on that one.
Burovich detention,
Berkowitz, no.
Burovich detention,
No changes?
fund.
Great Lakes, no.
How about that Great Lake fund? Well, I remember. We got a monsoon coming, or what?
Good morning. Yeah, John, you want me to give you a brief background on the fund? Is that what you're looking for, or?
I just looking at numbers.
Yeah, well, but I can give you a real short, hopefully, description of that. Basically, the history behind that fund was a donation to the county from Great Lakes. I don't know how many years ago, 20 plus years ago, I'm guessing. Anyway, it was intended to be used for the Tippecanoe county regulated drain. And so what has happened is some of it was used years ago on some work in that area. But anyway, it's been sitting there for a few years. And what the intention of it right now, this is one of the things that I inherited, but currently right now, what is going on is that I'm working with the city of West Lafayette. We have some joint contracts. We're working with Great Lake, or actually Cook Med Institute, or Cook in general. I can't remember what the exact name is at the moment, but anyway, who purchased the Great Lakes facility. We are all three working together to reconstruct the Tippecanoe county regulated drain from Cumberland Avenue up to US 52. So there'll be some major improvements in that area. So I've worked with the Drainage Board attorney. We've made some good progress on that. So I would anticipate that being under construction by fall, maybe early winter next year. So that's the intentions or placement of where that money is anticipated to be spent.
Yeah, I do remember the area now. Just, yeah.
It's in drastic need.
So,
Does that have anything to do with the development in the property just south of Great Lakes?
It will all tie in, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
so
And others, Dave. There's some other, well, actually, there's several different issues out there to consider, but yes, that ties into it, absolutely.
So that area falls under our jurisdiction? I mean, you said something, partner with West Lafayette.
Yeah, it's
What are
inside.
they putting up?
Yeah, I don't have the exact dollar amounts right off the top of my head, John, but basically what it boils down to is that the county regulated drain was in the county at one point in time, and now the city of West Lafayette has grown over the last 150 years since the tile was put in. That tile was originally put in to drain the celery bog area so that they could farm it, right? So one of the other important things that this project does, getting back to what Councilman Williams asked me, is that it will control the level of the celery bog to reduce some of the flooding that they've had over there, specifically around the apartment buildings, and forgive me, but I can't remember the name of the one immediately west of the bog on Cumberland Avenue, but there's been historical flooding issues out there on Cumberland, and also with some of the walking paths, some of the apartment buildings, Walmart, and then the apartment complex basically south of Walmart. So this will help to reduce and or hopefully eliminate the biggest majority of those problems that they've had in that area.
So the flooding and the walking paths and all that, has it been brought on by all that construction going out there?
Well,
I mean, who's responsible?
not exactly, John. If you're looking for responsibilities, the county via the Drainage Board and myself, by state statute under Indiana Drainage Code, is responsible for the county regulated drains. The Cupping McClure, which drains that area, is a county regulated drain. So basically it has reached a point by state code definition of from an agricultural drain, which is what it was when originally installed, to an urban drain now. And by statute, the Drainage Board and myself have a statutory obligation to do a urban drain reconstruction to increase the capacity of the system so it can handle the increased pressures brought on by development. So then it is inside the city limits, so yes, the city has buy-in in it also, and so that's why we're working together to jointly do the project. Roughly speaking, the county's portion is probably going to be, based off of the rough estimates I have right now, somewhere between probably 400 and 800,000. And then the city is going to be probably half to 2/3 of that, and then Cook will be putting in their share also.
And this is anticipated starting this fall?
No, next fall. At the earliest. It could be later in the year.
Next fall.
It depends on how long it takes to get some agreements made with Cook and some permits and some other things, but yeah, we're on track. I don't know how much you want to know about it, but that's more than what you wanted to know.
There's just no way to, well, it's over a year away.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just wondering, do you need that in there right now?
Yes. One of the things that in my opinion, yes. For me, I've tried to express over the years to the Drainage Board and to the County Council that one of the things that I try to stress on an annual basis is that please keep in mind that when we're talking about projects at this scale, I can't turn them around overnight. They're 2 or 3 years. Hell, I've been working on one at Interstate 65. We're getting ready to release it for bid in about a month. It's basically a 60-inch pipe we're going to jack and bore underneath the interstate just south of just south of State Road 26. I've been working on that for almost 6 years because of issues with NDOT and things like that. So you got to keep in mind that when we budget this money, it may be 2 or 3 years before it's actually through completion. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about some of this stuff. And my understanding, John, is that there was and I know I talked to Mr. Lehman about this when he was still representing the Drainage Board, and Doug, I don't know how familiar you are with this, but my understanding was that there were restrictions placed on that because it was a donation, and so that may get into some of the things you're thinking about there, John. I don't have that document right in front of me.
I don't know. I haven't looked at it. It would not surprise me if it's called the Great Lakes Fund, that it was donated with an obligation to benefit that area.
Any other questions for the Great Lakes? How about the Alexander Ross detention?
Yeah, that fund is very similar, or it's actually exactly the same as the Burleson Detention Fund. Basically, that was set up as development occurs in these watersheds. there is a $15,000 per acre storage, or acre foot, I'm sorry, $15,000 per acre foot of storage fee for these facilities, these regional detention facilities. And so as development occurs, if they need 1 acre foot of storage in the regional detention facility, then they would pay $15,000. And so to the Drainage Board, and these funds were set up for that money to go into, and then for us, or the surveyor and the Drainage Board, to maintain those regional detention facilities. So that's the whole background on those.
So, I don't want to belabor this, but, so you got to keep that 500,000 in there to show the other constituents, and we got some money and we're going to go forward with this project a year from now? Or
Well,
15 months from now, or 14 months?
well, that's one way to look at it, but I guess really what I'm saying, John, is I think that I'm almost positive, and if I need to dig it out, I can, but I'm very certain, about 95% level confidence, that there was a resolution and/or ordinance or some legal document that Great Lakes made the county sign and said that money had to stay there and could not be used for anything other than.
And you can't transfer out of it next year?
Exactly. That's been always my understanding, and that came from.
Can't transfer out.
Actually.
I haven't seen it, but that sounds probably, it's been sitting there for 20 years, and it's probably been waiting for a project that it could be used for.
Right.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if you didn't have it here, you'd probably have to use something from general drain or
Another
somewhere,
fund,
right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay, move on. Phase 2, stormwater quality.
Okay, so we had a few decreases in part-time to 1,000, overtime to 2,000. Bob, you were going to check on that health insurance number?
Yeah.
Is it,
I'll see if my notes match Bob's. I'll jump in here
My
real
notes
quick.
are pretty brief, so why don't you
Okay.
go ahead there?
I did some homework on my end. Here's what I came with. That was a Scrivener's error, and
Okay.
it should be $58,653.
oh, okay, thank you.
Zach, what's that number again, please?
$58,653.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We got training, Kathy?
Excuse me?
Training?
Oh, yes, the training was going to go to 15,000, and then we were also going to cut professional services to 150,000.
Right. 340 to 150. Thank you, Zach.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.
Well, wait a minute. Okay.
That's,
No, you're good. I'm so tired I'm going backwards. Okay, let's go on to the battleground. Oh, boy, the battleground fence, Dave. We're going to talk about the battleground fence.
Just keep people from running into it.
Yeah,
It'll be
that's-
just perfectly
yeah.
fine.
right.
People quit running over it, we wouldn't spend anything.
Well, we finally got it.
That's just appropriated in case something
up.
would happen.
Somebody else has it.
If somebody hits it, then they have money to
Yeah,
repair
we,
it. Right. So that's
it's done.
Right, it's done.
Oh, wait a minute. It's completed.
Yes, but the 10,000 there is in case something would happen, there's
The
appropriation
next wreck.
that they have the money to be able to fix the fence.
I say there's $5,000 slop there.
Yeah, it's federal money specifically for that.
Federal money or
Purpose.
state?
Or state.
It's state money.
It's state money. When they
The state actually
I think it's in
is
the state
responsible.
constitution, right?
It is. The state.
Yes, it is. It is
It's in the
in the
state constitution that the state in perpetuity is responsible for the fence around the battlefield. But it runs through the Parks Department because it's a county park.
I only remember them hitting it one time.
Which year was that?
Thanks, John.
Okay.
I mean, it's only dog food, but I still see it's 10,000, should be 5, but whatever. Okay, clerk 4D. Think we do that?
Yeah, Krista, there's some
He's making me laugh.
movement, as you see in dollars on line items here. that also goes in conjunction with what Chris has done with her staff and position reduction. So since she's here, we'll let her go through this.
This is the third position being cut this year in this cycle. So basically, the expenditures for 4D have gone down from my office with staffing efficiencies. So we're not getting as much reimbursement because of that. So it's not enough to sustain a full-time employee any longer, but I think it would sustain 2 part-time employees going forward.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Krista.
That's the next page.
Now we move on to a blank page. You want to take the ball and run?
Well, we're going to have to go back to general fund again, I guess.
Page, any page.
We got about an hour before we break for lunch. Unless you got any suggestions what to do?
I'm eager to have the prioritization discussion. We're prepared to add the prosecutor positions. Pat's provided a statement based on the request so that we could at least square up our deficit number in the upper left-hand corner. But then also, Pat also has a change for his full-time salaries too. So be okay if we just tried to get that on the board right now?
Yeah.
Get in our heads prior to that, having that discussion.
Yeah, get the numbers back.
Can I ask a clarification of the request from Pat? Because during his discussion, he talked about 5 new positions.
Correct.
And potentially that there will be a position that is going to be funded from the state.
Correct.
Okay. So would that be then just 4 positions if that is coming soon?
Correct,
Does he need
yeah.
5?
So he needs 5, but there's 2 answers to your question. The salary statement he provided, so the one that he mentioned that may be funded from the state is not known. That's just legislation that they're looking to get done. So that's not part of this 5. However, the 5th that he talked about is a division chief position, which we're not banking on yet until personnel hasn't approved a division chief even classification to know how to if the division chief position gets approved as a brand new position, not the job but the job description. We don't have a pay. He's got a recommendation. There's of like 80 to 100, I think. So I know this is in this in-betweener stage. So the salary statement he provided has just 4 positions on it, which are the 3 DPAs for the lower courts, and then the 1 DPA for the sex crime unit, which would serve the upper courts. So what it basically says, Kathy, is we're not going to worry, we're not even going to consider that new position that the state could fund. That's outside of this whole discussion. And it would be the factoring in of the 4 positions, and then should the Personnel Committee and the commissioners then approve this division chief job description, what would be the result of that on his recommendation that we won't deal with, I don't think today or in this budget cycle, is there'd be 1 person hired to fill 1 of the 3 division chief positions, and 2 supervisors would be promoted to that division chief position. Okay, so what we're talking about here is the add is 4 DPAs. The salary statement he gave you has got that, correct, Bob?
Correct.
Okay.
I just wanted to, just for clarification, the study that you got, Addie wanted to, knowing that we are in process on those 2 division chiefs, she included that on the salary study and actually made 2 divisions on the salary study results, one for the 4D, because Pat said that portion would still have the supervisor level, but the criminal side would not, because they would have the division chiefs. So the page that you've got is what the recommendation would be if we decide to do the division chiefs. And we need to double check with Pat, because if I understood him correctly yesterday, he said if he got that position from the state, he may not need the division chiefs. So I want to clarify that
That's a
before
good
we.
clarification. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
And in the letter that he sent to the commissioners and copied me, he had the 3 division chiefs, 2 of which would be reclassifications of current supervisor levels. And then the other one would be probably, I'm assuming, promoted from within if they don't get that additional.
They are, and I know this is right in the middle of this whole discussion we had yesterday on the process, but there was enough questions. Do you have the Wagner number for these division chiefs?
It's on the study for the division chiefs.
That's the Wagner number?
Yeah, that is the Wagner number, because
I'm sorry,
since that was
I didn't
coming
pick that up.
to completion at the same time that she was trying to get the study to us prior to budget hearing, so we would have a reference point of where we would be with the 2%.
Either way, I wouldn't, yeah, so we could look at it a lot of different ways. We could look at any of these positions, starting them in January 1, starting them mid-year, this 3rd division chief, and I'm sorry, Kathy, I didn't pick up that one was the potential, but it would be hard for me to bank on the state coming through on something the Prosecutors Association is lobbying for. You know, it could relieve us later, but I would hate to bank on that, so.
I just thought that might help.
Thank you for that clarification.
Since the numbers are actually in the study, they're within his range, but not at the level that he had requested. It didn't go up to that.
What was the number for the 2?
I believe the top range, I can tell you. Sorry, I didn't have it in hand. On the study, if we went with the criminal division that had the division chiefs, the minimum point would be 81,822, the midpoint 86,126, and the maximum 95,944.
Okay.
And again, that's at the full recommendation. So that kind of depends upon whether you want to take the full recommendation, because if you did, and then you try to implement the rest of the study, then they would already be at the max.
Okay. So when we go to prioritization, can we include this situation on there, including the division chiefs, and just have that part of that discussion? If we do, I would presume we'd bring these people in, I don't know, if probably on the low end of that range. I'll see if I can get a hold of Pat at lunch and get some clarification on that.
To get clarification, because, and then I can double check with Addie to find out. But basically, those numbers, the prosecutor criminal division was 13.74% below market. So if that's putting it at market, that should give you some idea of where that might land.
On the flip side, on the salary statement for the existing positions, since we are, if we are adding any help, particularly in the DPAs, I asked Pat to go back and we asked Pat to go back and look at salary statement, because he's got his range. He projects out where he thinks they're going to be through the year next year, right? So that there's some flexibility in there. He's had one turnover here in the last couple of days. So that position, which was funded at the high end of the range, is now going to go back to the low end of the range. And I asked him to go through the whole salary statement and say, can you give something back if we're going to get you some help on DPAs, and we're not going to be working the existing DPAs as many hours as they're working now, we would surely not have to be using salaries as an incentive to stay if you're working that many more overtime hours. Bottom line is he's recommended that we take off $100,000 total from his full-time line item, and he'll revise the salary statement accordingly.
He'll come up to exactly the 100,000?
Yeah, well, you know, it's like he's making guesses on there because he's got vacant positions, he's got turnover, you know, and just. So yes.
But the full-time did not include any of the new.
Correct. That's correct.
So that's just existing.
That's the existing, right.
Now, if we can just hire 4 for 100,000, we're fine.
Yeah. We're trying to push
If
that.
only.
And again, his original request was 8, and he wanted 12. His original, in discussing this, was 8, and we knew that we couldn't get there, so this is where we're ending up.
So my number here has got those 4 new positions. So what you're indicating is I take what he submitted plus the 4 new positions and then subtract 100,000?
That's correct. Now, the fact of the matter is, this does happen every year, where he's got that range and he's turning people over, and so that does go to our unspent budget number, which would be another encouragement not to go below 96%. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Because he did have there were more of them that were shifting on his little scale towards the max, and this is what we sent him to start with, this is what we anticipated, and then this is what he submitted, and so, there's some of these that are double-digit percentage increases.
And that's what this $100,000 reduction
So he's going to kind of
would
adjust
alleviate.
that down for,
Yep.
okay.
Bob, how much, when you look at that, the over the 2%, what did that equal?
It was that 82,000, if I remember right? 81,800. This is above what we anticipated when we sent out the forms, and then when they revised them, it was 81,000. And for most of them, it was exactly the same, but then these are the people in here,
So if you take off the 100, we're below the 2%.
yes.
What was the rationale for the 81, that increase?
Well, part of the rationale is with the data that he showed us on number of cases and number of hours, and what we saw on average workloads.
So that was the.
If I'm that manager, I've got to be using money as an incentive. If I've got to dump more cases on it, they just got to get the work done. So, he can say person by person exactly, but from a broader management perspective, that makes sense that you're going to incentivize folks to stay if you've got that flexibility.
Okay.
And Bob, you've included the health insurance for the
Yes.
4 new employees, correct?
Yes.
Good question.
Just, I want to make sure that
where's
this
that
number
at?
that I'm looking at.
Is accurate.
Yes.
Is the big,
Yeah,
is the
is the number
Right.
Yeah.
with putting the 4 in the totality.
Yep.
Well,
And Bob,
Yeah.
okay.
maybe.
I did also have a PD question too, but I don't want to leave the prosecutor yet if you're not ready.
So this is what I've got for the health insurance. That's all I got 2 deputies, 4 jailers, courthouse security, communications officer, the health department, prosecutor 4, public defender 3 out of the 6, maintenance 1, community corrections 2, and then I took the treasurer's a -1. So I've got 18 net new.
Well, she didn't have them in her request, so that would be the change from the request.
And some of that, I didn't change the recorder one, it just depends on, I took Jennifer's out because she had the family plan, and so that's a little bit bigger chunk that,
Those 2 positions were in the salary statement that submitted. They were not removed at the time of.
so I could take 2 out of,
You showed us that they had been crossed out.
Not when the budget paperwork was submitted.
Oh, gosh.
and I'm really comparing to, like, who has 18 insurance compared to who I think I'm going to have 19, and we can look and see what
Yeah,
kind
so we need to check that salary statement. I thought
The
Those-
only change was the person who was paid for the 4D money was included in the general
Okay. Now, before we start on the next one, we could do solid waste. Is Tom here now? Tom's back. Oh, there he is.
Tom's not here.
Yeah, he is. He is here now. He's just dressed different.
Got another correction.
Where is he?
Right here. By Jen.
Is that what?
Oh, he's
Brenda
changed
just did?
shirts. No wonder I didn't recognize him.
So Christie, can you come back up, please?
Yeah. Okay.
Can you come over here real quick? I think Bob showed the actual scan of your submitted. This is it.
F-Lake was how much?
It is.
So you're saying, we said that one stays funded.
Correct.
You're saying that these are currently included in this number?
Yes.
But they're coming
Because
off.
this number is everything, but the budget numbers are separated into mine, my chief deputy are separate.
Are
from
you
the
saying
full-time.
these total? I thought these total
Minus the,
something.
minus the 40.
Right. So
I
you're-
think we're about 400,000 under what I
So
think
we
we
could
should.
take off these
I think we
two.
should as a
Correct.
minimum.
Let's
From the
check those
general
numbers
fund.
real quick.
I may have a. I've worked
Because
on
nothing was
adjustments
decided
to the public
about
benefit.
Great, so
When I submitted
read
this.
those three line items.
Sure.
Well, wait, hang on, let me just go there. Be a help.
We kind of start, and Michelle helped me, because Michelle always helps them with that. So we may have.
We're at that.
Okay, you got 897, 920 on your budget here.
That
Check these
includes
numbers. 897, 925 on your
positions.
It includes, yes.
And
Yes.
2%.
And then 69, 745,
745,
Sheriff Ramirez.
52, 841.
We're getting
Okay,
close
so
to
that
actually doing
total
this.
Yes.
1020.
I gotta have some formula problem, don't I? Because it seems like.
because the other, the 4D money.
That is such a
4D clerk at 30.
wizardry there.
Yeah,
I always tell you, you should,
38,686.
like, copyright that and sell it.
The general.
I think overnight, some of the numbers melt down a little bit.
36, 30, 86, 86.
It's a masterpiece.
So it's-
Taking all these years to get it there.
Because what am I saying here on, I'm saying we cut 1.5 million
So we can take off.
from the general fund, and that includes
These
adding Pat's stuff
Okay.
of,
We started out at 1.8 plus adding his stuff.
yeah.
To get
I mean,
this.
from where we are right now,
Insurance.
Correct.
we need 1.5.
We need,
No, no,
we
that's
need
what we had.
400,000.
Okay, so
We're at
Well, but
397.
we need to have at least
We, I
Yes.
had talked about
400,000
eliminating
minimum.
that, but I.
minimum, but we
had
probably need to be
idea.
further than that,
Yeah.
just knowing that we're gonna be cutting positions next year when we
Yeah.
come to this, because
Yeah.
we know we got things we gotta push over out
push 'em
of,
back
out into the general,
Okay, good.
back into the general fund from elsewhere.
So Bob, back on clerk general fund, sorry, we had a misunderstanding. On the full-time line item,
Page is that?
one position was on the salary statement that was not figured into the budget, so we're good on that, but two positions were on the salary statement that were included in the budget, so we need to remove those. Those were, it's, I don't know if you want to look at our salary statement first or the total.
Well, I've removed two, 38,686 as a piece.
Did we get that done yesterday?
I did it.
Which two are they?
What two are,
Comet
let's see.
3 and, no, Comet,
It was
both
the-
of them Comet
the
3s?
two vague ones, right? This one down here?
Okay.
Right.
And one
Okay.
And one up
Right.
where it was.
I didn't,
Way
I'm
at the
sorry, I
top.
didn't remember that we had got those pulled out. 38,686 times 2?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
that's,
Much ado about nothing. So then the question is the health insurance.
yeah, and I kind of like to look and see the ones we're
Okay.
pulling out, what kind of health insurance did they have?
Okay,
I mean, if
thank
it's
you.
vacant now, I don't know who, if we could go back and see. Because we could pull a little bit more, but I'm also doing some rounding with the health insurance, I'm rounding it up,
Yep.
so. 'Cause that's just always a guess, but.
Thank you, sorry.
Roland, are you complete with the prosecutor's office?
Yes.
Because Jennifer had a comment in regards to interest revenue. there's some new numbers that you'd like to share with us as we move this process forward.
Yeah, back to revenue. So the estimates that I provided to you were, did not take into account any potential increases. And as you know, the feds have been ramping those rates up 0.25% at a time. From the minutes of their last meeting, they have said that there's a 96% chance that they will increase in September. That meeting is September 26th, so it's that's the same day as your evening meeting. There's a 63% chance that they would increase again in December.
Accurate.
And then they've talked about 2 potential increases next year with no percentages of what the chances that they would give those to. So if you are feeling optimistic and thinking that that 96% chance of a 0.25% increase this month, that would add an additional $120,000 to next year. And that really is the only one that I feel comfortable adding. It's probably likely that we could have 1 to 3 increases, with one being a lot more assured than any of the others. So I just wanted to throw that number out.
I don't know if we want to bank on more than that. If they don't quit flirting with the trade thing, that's going to spread further into the economy, and that can help.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Come up with that metric.
There has to be multiple attorneys working on that.
So are we comfortable adding 120 to that?
Go for it.
I think so. It's a good bet.
96% chance.
What does a 1% salary or across the board increase mean to the general fund? Is it like 250? 300?
Number then with the 100.
I believe so. My numbers may be a little inaccurate, but I secretly have the 1 and the 0% increases if you want to. Yeah. Where does I have that at? No, not there. What is that? Well, it looks like it's about, say, $250,000.
300,000
Yeah. Just
Thank you.
about that.
For each 1%.
for each 1%.
Yeah.
Right there.
But if we've got this new salary study, we're just kind of kicking ourselves in the shin
Right.
this time to
Trying
save
to get
ourselves, and
that
next year we got even more problems.
Yeah, we're just putting ourselves further behind on that.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, good question.
Okay, what amount was, I know that the sheriff's department proposed a 5% for the merit deputies versus a 2, what does that 3% mean? We're looking at, what does it mean?
That extra is 100,000 in salary.
The extra,
I
the
believe so,
additional
if I'm looking at
3%.
yeah, I believe that's what I'm looking at here. It should be what this column is here, is the difference. Where am I? I got 99,636.
And those are the salaries that we adjusted the scale on last year. Is that correct?
Yes. Which is all the deputies, and I know for some reason the matron gets put in their category.
So the difference between 2% and 5% is how much?
Is 100,000, but it only affects the deputies.
Right.
100,000 plus Social Security.
That's moving it from 5 to 2.
Correct.
do you, it's Brian's leaving, do you guys have a recommendation on that?
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna just give that to the county.
I think we probably need
Cut
to
your,
go to
cut
the
your
two.
wages by 3,000.
The study came in and said 2.1.
Or Great Lakes.
You know, I would rather keep the new positions and cut that back to 2.
Is he talking to you?
What about
I think he's talking.
potentially, is there any negotiation on the moving part-time to full-time on a couple of those spots?
Yeah, that included the bailiff, taking a half-time bailiff position and moving it to full-time.
And what about like
And
dispatcher?
So, I think,
Well, they talked about, they had part-time dollars, but the majority of those part-time dollars were spent in the jail, for jailers, versus in the dispatch, but there would be some wiggle room there with money. I don't know how much.
But if we're adding on the detention side, is there any chance we've got some play on the part-time side? If the difference in percentage of the sheriff is 100.
Maybe less money.
Is that more than 100?
The two new ones?
Yeah. What if we were, then we're back to freezing individuals with the salary study in future years.
54 is about the same.
Putting ourselves back into that kind of a deal if we're going to try to move everybody else to a salary
Pretty
study in the
darn
coming
close.
years. So then we got people frozen again.
Do we need to push this for
Not the same, but a little more maybe.
two deputies would be more than 100,000.
close to me.
Your recommendation that we fully
What we're discussing is the possibility of leaving the percentage increase at 5%. Maybe not funding the two merit officers at this time. We'd rather keep the percentage to keep the salaries competitive with the other agencies in the study.
I thought,
But the study said 2%.
Right.
And they did get a nice raise last year.
And if
So
we,
I was
if we
gonna
go,
say
if we go
just
to
did
implementing
that.
the salary study, then we could have people frozen again like we were when we did this the last time around.
Right.
exactly.
I don't think that's
So-
doing us any good to put ourselves right back in that kind of position.
The problem, and I always defer to Shirley, but the problem with that study is we have to compare local agencies to our agency. You can't compare Benton County and Bartholomew County and those counties in that entire study because it waters it down. We take from a pool that's local. Therefore, we have to try and keep, and we're just barely keeping up with, there's still a difference between Lafayette Police and West Lafayette Police and certainly Purdue. So that gap gets even bigger if we only get our 2%. At some point, we're going to catch up and then we can go to the, because they'll be getting 2% on that, but we've got to get to that point where it's not going to affect me, I'm not going to be here, you know? But I mean, we just have to for long-term
We knew we had that problem, and last year we increased it.
And we very much appreciate the raise we
Yeah.
got. However, they're getting I don't know what that raise is for next year. for them.
But then it's different, it's a different
But did we
pool of
check
money.
benefits versus benefits, their cost
I'm
of
just not
insurance
so
versus
sure
their cost of insurance, those other things. I
we
mean,
need to
can
look at
talk
all
dollar
these
for
new
dollar, but we're
positions
also looking at benefits of the packages too.
I think that's negligible, sir. I really do. I don't think it's going to make a difference. It's going to,
You can't put it anywhere else. Anything that's in a fund, you can't put it into general
So
fund.
those are our options, I think, but do we need the positions? Yes.
I apologize, I didn't hear the commissioner comments yesterday on the presentation, but did you guys discuss this further and have recommendations?
Yeah, Tracy.
Well, I think I shared my thoughts
Yeah.
that we should always work smarter. And one of my suggestions was that if we could, if we're looking at, in terms of positions, if we're looking at ways to make things easier on the folks that are dedicated to providing patrol services, that you're always better off to hire more corrections officers in the jails and transport officers and have them go to the hospitals, the courts, the trips, and other things like that, and again, allocate those deputy services to actual man hours on the road.
Well,
I also suggested that maybe the important thing to do is give the next sheriff, whoever that may be, a voice in what staffing looks like. We don't know what plan is going to unfold in the future. They need the help, but you need to take a long, hard look at it. You will never be able to afford the bill for getting public safety to absolutely where it needs to be today, but you have to have a plan moving forward. We had that plan many years ago when we were adding 2, 2, and 2. On the salary side of things, I do agree with Commissioner Byers that if you're going to look at salary benefits, look at the whole picture. We were woefully behind other agencies for years, and we've made some positive steps in the right direction now. But I do think that the benefits, like health insurance, you do have to look at that percentage that's being paid by an employee of the sheriff's office versus the percentage being paid out of pocket by somebody at Lafayette City or West Lafayette or Purdue.
I don't know what that number is.
I do think, excuse me, sir, I do think that the approach that the major took a few years ago where we averaged the salaries of the agencies and that was kind of the bogey was prudent. That brought us to where we are today. But it's all going to boil down to what you can actually afford to pay. And I would have rather that some of this discussion took place back when we were taking salary statements as opposed to just a 5% being slapped on there with absolutely no discussion whatsoever. Because what it's done is it's put you folks in a tough position. I would just recommend again that when we're doing this next year, that we find a better way to handle it. Commissioner said in June that the raise was 2%. And then all of a sudden, here we are at budget now, and those salary statements were turned in at 5% without an in-depth look at all of the things that have to do the questions that we're asking right now.
So in your view, or in any of you commissioners' view, are the additional COs of equal importance to the additional merit deputies, of equal importance to the courthouse bailiff, who's in equal importance to the communication officer?
No, I tried to get the sheriff nailed down yesterday to commit to a strategy or prioritize that, and it was crickets. I mean, there was no comment to that. I understand that they're all important, but out of deference to the council who has to make a tough decision and cut budgets accordingly, there should be a priority to those. And as I've watched this unfold over the last 2 or 3 years, clearly we've said no enough times to the dispatch situation. I think that is critical. And we know what we're facing with in the jail at 14. We were woefully short in terms of number of corrections officers that we had. The question is, pick your poison. Can we find a way to come up with a long-term plan for the staffing of those deputy positions? I would like to see a collaborative effort to make sure that happens instead of just a plan that just says, we need 5 more a year for the next 10 years. I mean, I just don't know where that gets us. There has to be a plan. We have to look at time on task and things like that. Do a lot of other things that modern day policing requires. I don't like like those numbers that just certainly that come from population trends, because there are a lot of agencies out there that aren't using those types of studies anymore.
Right.
There's some other tools out there that an agency could use that are a little more complicated to figure out, but end up with better results.
We also have some part-time money that we discussed yesterday, 2 part-time dispatchers that we could roll into the communications officer line, and a part-time courthouse bailiff that could be combined into the full-time courthouse bailiff. So there's some part-time money there that could go into this pool. I'm not sure how much
So clearly on the
that offsets, but
clearly on the issue with corrections or even the bailiff, that works. I would refer to the major on whether or not that works for dispatch, because they've got some other things that are calculated into that with the shifts, the special shifts that they're on for 12 hours,
Well,
and just having overall coverage and everything.
but I think that's what you indicated yesterday, that was a
Right, I
possibility.
mean, we desperately need a full-time person, and it's hard enough hiring people as it is. And so if we could just get a full-time person, we can eliminate
For the
that.
sheriff's department?
Get to that point.
And would it be difficult for you to, I mean, to absolutely zero your part-time, I mean, virtually impossible by just adding one person? I mean, it doesn't plug in, we're not talking about.
No, it doesn't, yeah, it's not apples to apples.
$450,000.
But it's something.
Right. Well, and the difference between the 2% and the road officers is pretty small.
No, maybe more than that when you put
I mean, it's about 100
because I've got
on either side.
those new positions, they add up to 341. Then you got
So if we had the positions at 2%, we're about the same amount of money, and then we pick up whatever we can from the part-time to offset some more of that, so. I mean, that is a possibility that's been discussed.
So, and I don't mean to go to fellow Commissioner's mouth, but I think the short answer to your question is,
maybe there's some,
on our end, I think we're in agreement.
you don't need all
Top
the
priority is
you don't need all the jail. Maybe give them 2 jail
followed by
deputies.
converting the part-time bailiff to full-time, followed by the deputy. Does that answer your question?
So you said COs
That's the area where I think
first,
that we're really short.
dispatcher, communication officer second.
Converting the bailiff from part-time to full-time.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you need to get 4 maybe.
And then the deputy's fourth.
Major?
But you can't.
Just a quick question, you know, and you know, you'd see both sides of it with a job study that we have, looking at all of the different counties. But then I also see, and I can look within our own county, what is happening. And I guess my question is that if we are losing other officers and we've got we're a training ground, and I'm glad to hear that we have a payback for training, so that once we train somebody. But, you know, when you think about it, if you get somebody brand new, I mean, how long does it take to get them on the road to doing their job?
About a year.
A year?
About a year, yeah.
Okay. So if how much is it costing us then for the turnover? When you try to put that into dollars and cents, and I know it's really, there's it's an intangible number, but, the cost, there's a cost to that as well.
I can't tell you that people are leaving us and going to LPD. The problem is, they just won't apply to us because Lafayette Police pays whatever they pay more. We are losing good candidates because they pay more, and they don't know any better.
But are we hiring good candidates?
Well, everyone's having difficulty hiring good candidates. Every agency is. But there's a difference here when you're paying $10,000 more a year,
One thing that Byers didn't ask to bring up on the benefits, we're still providing cars, correct?
You can't, everyone provides cars now.
Everybody.
You can't count that anymore.
That's flat.
Yes, sir, that's out of the question.
I think every agency is doing that, so.
Okay.
But also taking priority, if you're hiring deputies, you're adding another $100,000 per deputy. Whether it be a vehicle, where to get the equipment, whether you get it set up, so.
On that end of it also, once you get another deputy, and like I say, I agree with Tracy, we'd all like to take care of this problem. But fiscally wise, you hire another deputy, we gotta find another $100,000 to need it, or we gotta find another $100,000 and give them capital, whatever.
per deputy.
The pension goes up.
Right. Pension, as Bob said, it goes up a year later, things like that. So, I mean, what Tom said, I think we pretty much agreed on our priority list, what you look at.
Charlie, do you have any comments on their ranking, their priority list? That,
I know there's just a bucket and then it's, you know.
right, but I mean, would you prefer one over the other?
Know what they said, in my personal opinion, and I'm not speaking for the sheriff here, unfortunately, but my personal opinion, I agree with them.
We hear you.
But we have to prioritize. I mean, if there's, we have no choice.
I know.
So, the lesser of the evils is that. The jail's hurting bad.
Sounds like the
bad,
jail
bad.
needs it very, very badly.
No, it's, yeah, they really need people.
Yeah.
Really need people.
Are we on the right track?
Yeah.
Former sheriff, another former sheriff.
I mean, a lot to think about. And then, okay, so that takes, isn't there another position that we need to discuss as well?
No, the cook.
No,
The
not
cook
the
one we
sheriff's. I'm
dealt-
done, I'm on to another new position in
Well,
the
we,
budget. Okay.
if we take the 5% on the merit line down to 2% with everybody else, what is that, Bob, right about 100?
99.
99?
Well, it would be 99 plus the Social Security.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, it would be 106.
Okay. So that versus the 2 merit officers is basically a wash.
Except for the merit officers, you got the health insurance.
But then you add all the other things that.
So that,
Well, but
And
the
they were
merit
fourth on the priority
officers
list.
are already included in there.
They are included in there, but. Right, so they're already included in the other things as well. I mean, the salaries.
well, we say they're each like 54, so that's 108 compared to 100. The salary is pretty much equal to that pay increase.
I know, but all I was looking at is if you took the 100 out, the other is already included in there. So we're talking about a $100,000 decrease.
Right, so we're talking about 100,000 versus 108 plus insurance.
Right now, both are in there, though, the 2 deputies and the 5% are in there.
Right. So if we took out the 5%, that's going to be the 99 plus Social Security.
So what would and then what would the 2 merit deputies be? At the 2?
54.
They're 54.
At the 5?
Well, I assume, Charlie, do you know, these 54, these new positions, the 2 new merit positions would have had the 5% increase calculated in.
Yeah.
So it might be
So
a
it's
little bit less than,
A little less than that.
They would have built that into it.
if you take the 2% off, we need to get a new number on that.
But we're definitely talking about 200,000 if we talked about staying with the 2%.
Wouldn't it be the 52?
And not doing priority number 4.
Shouldn't it be this 52 number?
I'm just running around the numbers.
Yeah, that's why I said in round numbers, the percentage versus the 2 salaries are about the same.
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
Right, and then you have
right.
$200,000.
Well, plus a lot of trickle down in the other accounts that you mentioned.
But the dispatcher position is already in that budget number, as is the bailiff.
Right.
Right.
In the jail.
And if we adjust.
All of these are in there now. That's.
And if we adjust some of that out of part-time,
Yeah, that's really
we
close.
have some more money to take out.
Right, we've got some part-time money that we can take out into them for those positions too.
I know the number was thrown out, $80,000. I think it's up from, I want to say it's up from 60 from last year. Is that
Yes.
right? I don't know where we stand where do we stand right now in part-time? As of,
You've used 70% of it through the end of
so we're
August,
using
so
all-
you're
we're all
about.
at 60, so let's take out 20.
Yeah. Taking out 20? No, I had a motion.
God.
I don't have a
I
second.
don't want to go back to the office.
No, they're watching it right now, so.
Yeah, probably.
You have vacation time to get you to
Yeah, I'm gonna have
November.
to, the next 2 months. If that's where we're at, then we're in good shape, part-time wise, given the status quo, correct?
Right.
Yes.
You could take the 20 out
Why'd you do that?
and have those positions.
Okay.
What did we just do?
Just took 20 out of part-time.
And then that's
And then
it?
gave what new positions did we?
Did that assume the move to of the courthouse bailiff to full-time? Taking that
Yes.
20 out of part-time?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, yes. We will have a part-time position. We will have a dispatch part-time position. We'll still retain the bail deputy part-time position.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's still other things that go into that
Uh-huh.
part-time.
We won't need the communications officers part-time, and we won't need the bailiff or the courthouse security part-time.
Right.
Convert that to full-time.
If the full-time communication officer and full-time courthouse bailiff is approved. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it may be,
Get in there.
I hate to say this, it may be even less than
That's,
60.
that's a pretty well, so far I got.
Oh, don't
more
hate
than
to
a
say
quarter
that.
million
That's okay.
difference. We need to
Understand.
exceed that
Being conservative.
256 as much as we can. but-
Well, it seems to be there's
next year we're gonna have
a
more
pretty wide range of opinions on the, I mean, we would use all the deputies we can get, there's no doubt about that. But if that's priority 4 and that number was more based on not what we can't do functionally within the department now, it's more based on national averages.
Yes,
Well, I think if you take Tracy's comment about using
that's what we're spending.
corrections officers for transport
Tab going that one.
and
It's not this one.
those several other things that would free up,
See, we're using 96%. In 2017,
That offsets
we
much of
used
that.
96%.
Could we do priorities 1, 2, and 3 and reduce our part-time by the 20 and?
We've used 95 before. That's not what is really happening.
The state doesn't like that.
Let whichever
Well, it's for us really.
new
do we
sheriff
to
we have
increase our
next
cash
year,
balance, or do we
make a
wanna
new
keep
recommendation
lowering
on
our general
deputies?
cash balance? Because we're going to start eating into it more if, the lower.
well, I'm
we
sure
go, but
whoever's there will do that.
That take care of the needs, so.
Well,
we're going to have more problems next year.
but what does one deputy do? That's also the other option,
Try and get these
one instead
pay
of
up to
two.
grid when some of them are 12% increases.
It's a half a step forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other option, if you're going to, if we're already short in the jail staff,
Very.
and then having those people pick up duties that have been road duties in the past in terms of transport.
95, that's gonna solve
What if we added one
maybe for
deputy
this year,
and added
deal with
another
It
jail
would
staff?
lower our cash balance the end of next
Go to
year.
5.
We would be spending more than we took in.
If we did that, though, then would the one
19.
priority 3 courthouse bailiff drop off?
I think we're going to have to cut.
No.
No, I
positions.
think-
That's an add-on.
We're going to have to cut a couple of
No, that's,
Yeah.
that's just the option of pulling somebody out of the merit line, putting it in the non-merit line.
The sheriff, I mean.
And
just-
what
we
difference
can't-
that
we
makes
can't
in
afford to
retirement
have-
and whatever.
I'd rather be
But
safe.
that would,
Yeah.
but yeah, good
Safer
point.
we are.
And yours, I mean,
And I
that's-
still
and
don't
yours
know
is a
that
good
actually
point.
we need this is what
If merit
we're
deputies are the 4th priority and
Especially
jailers are the
if
top
you have
priority, but if I'm the person making this request for 8 new positions, but my top priority's got 4, my guess is I would like to have had 5 or 6 jailers, but I couldn't because I needed to ask for these others. So if we didn't fund all 8, would we be better off to put an additional jailer in, which, by the way, would be a little less expensive than fund the deputies, and then hopefully, I mean, we've been scratching and clawing to get deputies like every year, but
Right.
We hadn't been doing any of these other positions every year. And it sounds like we need to get caught up.
Yeah, I would agree.
Throwing out an idea.
I could like to hear from the major, but I think a fifth,
The more jailers, the better.
a fifth jailer and one road officer
If you could swing, that'd be great.
would be a
The
great
priorities
combination.
should still be the priorities. Corrections officers, communication should be the two, in my opinion, the biggest priority. They are hurting in the jail. I can't emphasize that enough.
Maybe we can ruminate over lunch?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
From an
Sheriff will be
agricultural background, that just rattled in my head.
The sheriff will be back after lunch.
Ruminating over
He'll be
lunch.
back after lunch,
at 1
okay.
o'clock, yes.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Charlie.
Vegetation.
Thanks, Charlie.
Chewing what he could, swallowing it again.
Yeah, but he didn't have that direct background. What he said.
I don't know when you want to go to lunch. You want to go
Oh,
lunch
he
at
knows
12?
what it is.
You want to do lunch at
Oh,
12?
you bet.
He's got the
Four
accent.
stomachs, man.
He did show monogas versus ruminants as show animals.
Yes, I did.
But he would understand.
Now, I
He
also showed
pigs.
ruminants a few years, Kevin.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, early
Okay.
on.
Okay. See, I didn't realize that you showed more
We'll
than
do solid waste,
monogastric
Tom's
animals,
here.
so.
Oh,
We're gonna do solid waste, Tom's here, get that out of the way,
We're breaking for lunch.
then we'll go break for lunch.
Page of
I
solid
think you already lost it.
Texting right
Yeah, what's Tom
That's Tom
doing?
here.
Page 78.
Page 78, solid waste. Do we have anybody here to represent that?
He declined that representation.
Apologize, it'll take me just a minute to get there.
978.
Solid waste.
Or we can get the Vision Business Bureau if you want. We don't have to.
The Business Bureau just said that.
Who is that?
Your friends are here.
Okay,
No,
well, we can
I
wait on
sent them an email. They're here.
I told
Sent them an
Joe
email
Williams
this morning
about it, but I
asking
don't-
to meet at noon.
Okay, go ahead, Tom, solid waste.
Do you want me to go through anything in particular, or do you want,
Wasn't that fun?
do you have any questions? I mean, I can tell you there are a couple changes we've made. The most important, you'll notice that under professional services, that is actually a lower request, but our grants and community support at the bottom is actually a higher request. That's because we have moved the support item for, Jeremy, was that for the support for the West Lafayette Transfer or Recycle Center?
Yes.
We moved it from professional services to grants and community support. Other than that, there's been no real significant change to the budget itself.
I would go into just budget, not in a full drive. 'Cause that was some trouble this morning. It was
Anything else, Tom?
unused. In here.
Does action need to be taken? I know we read a resolution yesterday.
Either Dave is here or Joe Wade is. Is Joe Wade here? No.
Probably have to pass the ordinance on second reading, right?
But that's done tomorrow night. Is that correct?
No.
No.
Well, that will do that on the, whatever, the
Morning of the
26th.
26th.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you.
We're still got a few minutes before 12. The Convention and Visitors Bureau, should we take a look at that before we break for lunch?
Dave serves as the treasurer of this board.
I was railroaded as the president of the board. Pretty much everything's about the same as you come back through there. The biggest thing that they will be doing is they are, which I know at the last council meeting, they're purchasing their building, which will save them, as you'll see, $73,000 under rentals. So that's be the biggest part of it. They are trying to get it so that they're a nonprofit, so they may not have to pay property taxes. As a government entity, they may get stuck paying property taxes. So we don't know for sure on that issue. They're going through Eric on that one. But really, that's the biggest change. Everything else is, they're under the 2%, the same as we are on salaries. And yes,
Is there revenue more than $1 million?
It fluctuates.
Because we never see anything on that.
It fluctuates.
They have cash.
Some hotels pay, some hotels don't pay, which they're all supposed to be paying. And also with the more and more hotels that we have in the area right now, which is getting competition, which is bringing rates down in hotels, so they're probably not getting as big a percentage. I mean, it's a catch-22, however you want to look at it. And yes, I'm just president of the board. I'm not president of the group and making that much money, so guarantee you.
Oh, sure.
Not double dipping. If I was making that, I wouldn't be here. Anyway, any questions?
Any questions for Dave?
Convention and Visitor Bureau.
Okay.
You're supposed to tell us all
Yeah.
about it, Dave.
Okay, we're going to break for lunch. Be back here at 1 o'clock. And when we come back, we've got one that I skipped. Public comment. When you come back from lunch, anybody got any public comment, that's fine.
It's not like we have anything later on this. This is
We're going to break for lunch.
That's one that's not,
Hey, John, just asking. This one here, we have resolutions for like solid waste that we will do on the 26th. This one, we do not. So we might want to just have a motion to approve this.
What's that?
The convention center, we're done.
You can do that first,
That should decrease our
We can at least have that in a minute.
Basically gonna just tell me what. I have to go to the
He was here. Kent has now made it